In this presentation, Kathy, Allie, Susie, and I will go through real-life situations to help further the understanding of Chronicle of a Death Foretold.
The conformity experience is the experiment observe whether or not a majority group influences an individual's reaction. Sheriff is the first scientist who made a hypothesis that the majority will influence the individual's decision. However, it was very ambiguous, so it was criticized by many scientists. Asch is a scientist who had the same hypothesis as the sheriff had. However, he set the experiment more clear way. In the experiment, 6 people in the room, 5 people are actors, and only 1 person is a test subject. The subject and the actors were given the example segment, and they have also 3 options to choose from that match with the sample. The actors chose the wrong answer intentionally and see whether the subject chooses the wrong answer or the right answer. As a result, 32% of the participants chose the wrong answer because they were conforming. Over 12 critical trials, about 75% of participants conformed at least once, and only 25% of participants never conformed. After the experiment, participants admitted that they knew the correct answer. They didn't want to be excluded from the group. In brief, there are 2 reasons that people chose the wrong answer: normative influence and informational influence. The normative influence is the desire to fit in with the group, and the informational influence is the belief that the group is better informed than they are.
In Marquez's autobiography, he reveals that the murder that happened in his hometown Sucre, Colombia, triggered the writing of a Chronicle of a Death Foretold. He heard that his friend in Sucre, named Cayetano, had been knifed to death by 2 brothers of a young teacher he used to ride on a horse with. The story goes something like this. The 2 brothers looked for Cayetano, who was hiding in his house. Cayetano's mother was scared for her son, who she thought was in her bedroom, so she locked the house, but Cayetano couldn't come in. The brothers caught up to him and stabbed him. Something about collective responsibility in the situation of Cayetano bothered Marquez so much that he decided his life wouldn't be peaceful without writing the book. Finally, Marquez's mother, after the passing of Cayetano's mother, allowed Marquez to write the book, on the premise that Cayetano would be treated equally and fairly. After the book was written, Marquez's mother never ended up reading it because she didn't think anything that turned out so badly in real life would be justified in a book.
After knowing the Asch's experiment and the basic events that happened in the book, now we are going to connect them together. We are going to think about how the idea of the Asch's experiment plays in the book. Here are 2 examples that we have for you. The first one is on page 62. At the bottom of the page 62, it says Prudencia Coates came into the kitchen in all her adolescence bloom, carrying a roll of the old newspapers to revive the fire in the stove. I knew what they were up to, she told me, and I didn't only agree. I never would have married him if he hadn't done what a man should do. So this passage is talking about how Prudencia Coates gives Pablo pressure and convinces him to keep their plan on killing Nazar. So how does the group pressure makes Pablo and his brother decide to kill Nazar? Here we can see that Prudencia Coates starts to keep the plan of killing Nazar. Then Pablo agrees, and Pedro as well. So we can see the group pressure and the idea of the Asch's experiment in this passage. And the second moment is on page 97. And there's a long passage talking about how women just watch and pass by the brothers who hold the knives. And there is an assumption that the women might thought Nazar was already dead because the brothers was holding the bloody knives. However, we can interpret it in another way, that they knew that Nassar was going to be killed, but they did not stop the brothers. But they obviously know that he's going to be killed. So why does this happen? Because everyone agrees on killing Nassar. No one would want to appear to be different from everyone else, which is what we call the peer pressure. Hence, they all pretend they don't see the knives. So in these two passages, we can see how Asch's experiment play in the book. And you can think about other moments, such as the letter that someone put in front of the door that to notify Nassar that he's going to be killed. And there are many events like that, and we can start to think about how this experiment play in the book.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2,
2,
2, 3, 3, 3, 3,
But on the third trial, something happens.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1. 1.
They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me.
1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1. 1. 1. 2. 1. 2. 2. 2.
I know they're wrong, but why should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2. 2. 2. 2.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Asch gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1. 1. 2. 1. 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with the group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Asch. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1. 1. 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. conformity drops by 2/3. Asch's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.